My guest today on Dan's Talks is Bryan, who is the chairman of the Shinnecock Nation Council. I think there are, how many people on the council? Three?
There's seven.
Seven. It got expanded.
Yeah.
When I first came here, which was in the 50s, there was a tribal chief, all men attended, and everything was closed up. You couldn't talk to anybody there about anything.
Yeah.
You had those big signs. I don't know if they're still there. Were they there when you first got here?
What, the no trespassing signs? What
That's
signs?
what they said.
Yeah, I mean, those have been out for quite some time, yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's come quite a long way. And at this point, you're the chairman. And please tell me a little bit about yourself and how you where you grew up and how old you were when you came.
Sure. So actually, surprisingly, I was born in Huntsville, Alabama, on a military base. My father was in the military. Came up back to home to New York when I was 5 years old. My mom's home state. Went to Riverhead schooling until 7th grade. Came to Southampton in 8th grade. Graduated Southampton High School. Did 2 semesters in King's College in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania, and then I transferred to John Jay College in Manhattan, where I got a bachelor's in criminal justice. Was a police officer for 2 years. Was trained at the Federal Law Enforcement Training Academy in Artesia, New Mexico. Then did a year of law school. Came home, helped my mom with her Raindrops Quick Stop store. Started a commercial greenhouse. Took about a course in ornamental horticulture. And then got involved in tribal politics in public service for the nation. And that's basically my story in a very summarized 2-minute way.
Yeah. What store was there? There was a string of stores on the highway there on 27A, which was your mom's. Is it still open?
Yeah, it's Raindrops. It's Raindrops Quick Stop, and then since then we have opened the cafe. Unfortunately, due to the pandemic, we usually don't open up that much. We do events. Still, we just recently had the Democratic Party at a breakfast meet and greet prior to the elections in November. But we're hoping to get back to some kind of normalcy with opening up the cafe more often.
I had read that the reservation is actually in two parts, one of which is about 100 acres, and I guess it's in the Shinnecock side of Hampton Bay. I didn't know about that.
Our territory basically is in, well, we consider a lot of Southampton our territory, our Aboriginal territory, but currently our territory is about 900 plus, give or take, acres. Right here, we call it the Neck, which is a peninsula that sticks out into Shinnecock Bay. That's where we have most of, if not all of our residents reside. There's about 1,000 person population up here. 720 of those are enrolled tribal members. The rest are tribal spouses, adopted children, stepchildren. And then we have the 100 acres over on Peconic, which we call our Westwoods property, which has always been somewhat of a spiritual place for us, also where we used to collect wood back, prior to the colonial days and during the colonial days, actually. And that is on both the north side of Sunrise Highway and the south side. Actually, Sunrise Highway actually goes through our territory, and that's, been a bone of contention for quite some time.
Yeah, it was a right of way that you wound up with.
A legal right of way, yes. And a legal right of way was taken by the state in 1959, illegally.
What plans are underway, and what are in the planning stages that the tribe is involved in at this point?
Yeah, so we have a multitude of projects that we're currently engaged in. Obviously, the council, although we're the government body, we do delegate a lot of these economic projects, even though we're intimately involved, to our SSH board as well as project managers. So currently we have our gas station project that we've been working on now, 15,000 square foot plaza facility on Sunrise Highway on the north side. We've been working with local officials to bring that to fruition. We're pretty close to getting our financing together for that. That's the first project that we're actually going to self-finance as a tribe, as opposed to going out and getting business partners. So we're really excited about that. We have a medical cannabis dispensary, which right now all the infrastructure work is going forward with improving our roads leading down to the cultivation facility, as well as getting water and electricity. And the cultivation, I mean, the dispensary should also be up in construction should start on that relatively shortly. A lot of these projects that we thought were going to get break ground sooner, obviously COVID has played a big part in that, not only on the financing aspects, but also on the supply chain. And then we have the gaming project. Obviously, a lot of people were talking about the gaming project over the summer and in the spring. Currently, we're awaiting our environmental impact study from the National Indian Gaming Commission to move forward with that. But we've done a lot of work on size and scope and some of the due diligence that we said that we were committed to doing as far as traffic studies and the impact that it would have on tribal membership.
How did, that, the last I saw pictures of it was on the main campus of the tribe.
Correct, yeah. And so we've been trying our best over the last 21 years is to get a more suitable place for gaming. Unfortunately, the powers that be, and this is the prior administration, I don't really want to judge this administration until we have time to actually sit down and talk with them, but the prior administration, under the Cuomo administration, was very dismissive of the Shinnecocks over the years. So it kind of forced us to go where we, know that we can absolutely go. And so that's why we moved forward with the Class 2 project on the neck here in Southampton.
What is a Class 2 what is a Class 2 gaming?
So there's a difference between Class 2 Indian gaming and Class 3. One of the biggest differences is you need a compact for a Class 3, and that's more Las Vegas style casinos with poker tables and things of that nature, where you can actually play against the house instead of playing against each other. And Class 2 is more like VLTs, and you can't play against the house, you have to play against each other. So then you also have some table games that you can do on Class 2, but it's significantly smaller operation than a Class 3.
What kinds of things can't you do on a Class 2?
You can't play against the house. You have to play against, so if you have a card game, you can't play against the house. You'd have to play against other players. The betting, it's very complicated and complex. The way the distinctions between Class 2 and Class 3 Indian gaming.
Well, the way I understood it was Class 2 has random wins rather than Class 3 where somehow you bet against smart people and something like that.
Yeah, well, again, it's a mix of things, and not just one thing makes it Class 2. I think the biggest thing is that with Class 3, you have a compact with the state, and you have to get into a compact with the state, and there has to be some kind of revenue sharing formula calculated. With Class 2, all of the revenue stays with the tribe.
What is I saw a plan for the facility. How many square feet would it be, and how much parking would there be? So where would it enter? You enter it on Hill Street.
Not Hill Street. It's still Montauk Highway before it gets to Hill Street. Right there next to where our museum currently is. And originally we had a 76,000 square foot facility with about 100 table games. I mean, 1,000 VLTs and 100 table games. We have obviously said over the course of this entire endeavor that as we get further along in our due diligence and we get more readout from our environmental impact study from the National Indian Gaming Commission, that we would readjust depending on the findings of those studies. And we're still in that process right now. We're hopeful that the original design that we have will kind of bear out, and it will be deemed to be both environmentally safe as well as not having a big impact on the quality of life of our tribal membership.
What I had read from your bio that you did a lot of traveling after graduation. I wondered where you went that you went to enjoy yourself and learn?
Yeah, so I kind of went all over the place. One of the biggest trips that I went on was when I went to Cairo and to Alexandria in Egypt. Saw the Great Pyramids, got to see the lighthouse of Alexandria, which was got a huge fascination with Alexander the Great and his final burial place. So that was great, and it was actually like 4 months before the Arab Spring. So I was actually one of my friends was studying over there at the American University, and it was actually very interesting because the environment amongst the students, you could tell, was at a boiling point. There was a lot of activity in some of the shisha lounges, which is hookah lounges are very big out there. There was a lot of conversation about, democratic principles, kind of the totalitarian regime under Mubarak. So that was eye opening. It was really cool to ride a camel through the desert. Some of my other travels that was really fun is when I went over to Italy, visited Rome, Venice, Milan. Really cool stuff. Really old country stuff like the Colosseum, the Sistine Chapel. All that stuff was really cool. And then other trips I've been to, South America, and that was more like vacation resort stuff. And then I went to Amsterdam. I visited The Hague, and went to Zurich, not Zurich, Zermatt, not Zermatt. What is it called? I forgot the name of the city, but it's like right outside of Amsterdam. And it was pretty cool. Zurich, yeah, Zurich. No, it wasn't Zurich. Zurich is in Switzerland. I forgot the city, but I also, yeah. So that's basically a lot of my travels around the world. And then obviously I've been to several mountains because I'm a big snowboarder. So
Is Alexandria was a big city that's now mostly underwater? Is that the case?
no, Alexandria. I mean, there's a lot of shoreline erosion in Alexandria, but it's very much not underwater. It's a pretty bustling, port city in the Mediterranean.
But the old stuff, I think, is some of it's
Yeah,
underwater.
no, some of it is definitely underwater, but it's a pretty thriving city, very bustling.
You mentioned something about the dispensary. What facilities are now up and running at the Shinnecock reservation? But back in the day before recognition, the tribe was recognized by the federal government about 15 years ago now, 20 years ago. And there wasn't much there. I mean, as far as there was plans at that time to have a nursery school, things like that, health clinic. Is there anything yet from that period of time that's still running?
Yeah, so when we got federally recognized, one of the big things about federal recognition was access to federal grants that we weren't having accessibility to before. Things that helped us enhance our health department. Just recently, I mean, we wouldn't have been eligible for any of the benefits that came out of the American Rescue Plan, or the CARES Act that came prior to that. You have to be a fully recognized tribe, and I mean, we've gotten over $10 million now in federal aid from the COVID that's allowed us to greatly expand services to Shinnecock members, fix people's homes. We're in the process of improving our roads. So it's been invaluable having that designation as a federally recognized tribe.
Is there a medical facility on the tribal grounds?
Yeah, we're currently engaged in a contract with Southampton Stony Brook Hospital. We run a health clinic here, as well as we provide Indian health services to the extent that we can under the federal program. We are looking to expand our services and expand our building. We've also, been in conversations about the proposed new hospital that's going over by the college to see if there's any way that we can get more support and more resources in a hospital that's going to be right around the corner and on our ancestral lands.
Is there another golf tournament coming to Shinnecock?
It is 2026. I believe the opener is coming back in 2026.
Yeah, was quite a history of the Shinnecocks actually building that golf club.
Absolutely. And there were Shinnecocks that, it's a very complicated history. There is a lot of pride from generations of people who worked at the golf course, especially Mr. Peter Smith, who was, one of the first Native American superintendents of in the golf world. And there's been a lot of generations of Shinnecocks who were, raised at the golf course, basically. But then you also have the negative side, where you have a lot of the golf course was built on our ancestors' bones. And there's actually testimonials, or more like jokes, and I don't think they're funny, but from town records that show people were saying, yeah, don't hit this sand trap because you might hit a Shinnecock bone or something like that. So I will say this, though, the golf course under their new leadership has reached out to us multiple times. We have been in conversation. We're trying to mend some of those old wounds. And I really do give them credit for reaching out and trying to incorporate Shinnecock culture more in what they're doing over there at the golf course, especially when it relates to the upcoming 2026 U.S. Open.
Are there differences between the Shinnecock's connection to its ancestors and, say, the United States approach? Or is it more of the same?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
Is the Shinnecock's connection to those who have passed on seen in a different light than the rest of than the United States perceives it, where people die and they're buried and they're in specific places and you visit them, their graves and so forth?
Yeah, and I think that it's not just, obviously, the United States is a giant melting pot filled with so many different cultures, and each culture definitely has a different way sometimes, and sometimes it's the same how you remember your ancestors and the dead. So I would say that we're pretty much in line with a lot of the other cultures that respect very highly our ancestors and their spirits and their remains. And that's why one of the reasons why we're pushing so hard and continue to push about the hills and the Shinnecock Hills and the importance of letting our ancestors rest in peace and not have a mansion built on top of them.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Are there any plans in the works for upcoming things that you haven't decided upon yet?
No, I mean, we have a full plate. Obviously, this COVID thing is rearing its ugly head again, and it's really having a huge impact on the nation. Just like in Suffolk County, we're finding test cases on the rise, unfortunately. So one of our main concerns right now is just keeping everybody safe, trying to mitigate the spread, and also trying to keep a sense of community when we have to go back to these kind of social distancing, and we've had to shut down our office. I'm here now, but I'm here alone. So we've been doing remotely. So really, we're just excited about, not only our economic projects, but again, that money that we got from the ARP is really going to help us with our infrastructure needs on the nation. Things that we took years under economic development to do.
What's the ARP?
American Rescue Plan under the Biden administration that actually gave $30 billion, $20 billion in direct aid, and another $10 billion in grants and programs for Indian country. It's the biggest single investment in Indian country that any administration has ever done in the history of the United States. So it has helped us provide direct support for tribal members who have economic from COVID. It has helped us supply indirect support through utilities assistance, child tax, food cards, roads, improvements to our community center infrastructure. I mean, the gambit is wide, and we're very appreciative that the Biden administration, everybody in Congress, kind of looked out and saw this in the light of, hey, these funds, yes, are there to help get you through COVID, but with indigenous communities in general, we are more susceptible at a higher rate than these pandemics because of some of our infrastructure needs. So the money was also geared towards building up your infrastructure so that the next pandemic that comes around, you wouldn't be as susceptible as we were. And, that's gone a long way, not just for our tribe, but tribes across the country.
I think the Montauk Tribe is looking for recognition.
Yeah, I deserve it.
They were paid to leave back in the 19th century. They were offered money to leave Montauk and set up tribal grounds upstate, which was a shame that happened. I've been reading a lot of the history of the Shinnecocks and the Circassian, and it's been quite a rise that the tribe has made in the last generation, which is just remarkable. I think a lot of people are feel very good about the pride that the nation has come forward with, and I think that an interesting thing was the building of the monuments up on the Sunrise. I think people at first a lot of them were very negative about how can they do this and this and the other thing, but I think that a lot of people are just saying, well, that's their ability. They can do that, and it looks nice, and we're very happy to be having you come around to join us in whatever prosperity you can take place going forward.
Absolutely. Yeah. The monuments were a big deal for especially our elders. I remember the day that the seal actually went up there 65 feet in the air overlooking our ancestral territory, and there were literal tears in some of the elders' eyes to show that recognition that, you guys are all now entering Shinnecock tribal territory, our ancestral homelands, and that we're still here. And I think that was such a powerful testament to the resiliency of the Shinnecock Indian Nation. And it might seem small to some people, but it was a giant step forward for Shinnecock. It also showed the Shinnecock people that in the face of adversity, we could pull through as long as we, banded together as a nation and asserted our sovereignty. So, on multiple levels, plus the financial aspect of it has been great. It's been, providing a good revenue stream for programs up here on the nation. So all in all, I think the sign project was a huge success. I'm glad that community members from the Southampton community and the East End community were able to get past some of the hysteria that was tied to it, some of the falsehoods that were being spread around, some of the nasty things that were being said about the Shinnecock people and how we were going to destroy the Hamptons, which is laughable at best. But we've been able to use it also as a public service announcements, which has been great as well. So I'm really looking forward to building on that kind of economic project success and moving forward with that kind of template going forward, trying to educate people on some of the misinformation that gets spread whenever we try to do something.
Well, thank you for taking the time to talk to me. I'm talking to Bryan Polite, who is the chairman of the Shinnecock Indian Nation. And we're about out of time. And so I wanted to wish you and the tribe members just the best of luck going forward. And it's good to get to speak to you.
Thank you so much. And Happy New Year to you and everybody who subscribes to Dan's Papers in the East End. Happy New Year.
Bye.
Thanks.